right, welcome back, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Untitled General Manager on YouTube. We have CPGM Headley, CPGM Drew, myself, CPGM Juice. We're getting into our 2019 NFL mock draft. I know you guys have been asking for it. It's finally here. Things to consider before we do get into this draft, though. Drew and Headley, they flipped a coin, decided that they were going to play GM for the first 32 picks. These picks are based on what they would do as GM, not necessarily what we think ultimately will happen late April.
Yeah, we are the GMs here.
Right, right, absolutely. As CPGM might suggest. So, with that being said, gentlemen, we're going to jump right into it. Drew, with the first pick, you selected Quintin Williams for the Arizona Cardinals. Why'd you make that?
We ran up to the stage. We pushed Roger Goodell out the way, and I made the pick with Quintin Williams. Quintin Williams is a monster. He is a beast. He is a bully. He is a man you don't want to meet in a dark alley, like that. He is the guy who was the engine for that Alabama defense. We talked about him, our draft profile of Quintin Williams. Check that out. That he would be best in a one-gap scheme. But when you talk about the Arizona Cardinals and a guy up the middle beef, a guy who can take up space, a guy who can disrupt the line of scrimmage, I don't think you can pass this guy up. And we can speak to free agency as well with the signing of Terrell Suggs, and you have Chandler Jones on the other side going to a 3-4. This is the guy, is the anchor in the middle. You got your pass rushers, probably need maybe another linebacker too. I know they got the middle linebacker, Jordan Hicks. So it's kind of all coming together once you put that one solid piece right in the middle to anchor down this defense.
Yeah, you know, we spoke about it too, man. The Cardinals defense is not that far away. Have a lot more issues on the offense side of the football. But at number one, man, it's hard to pass on Quintin Williams. Like, the Cardinals were dead last in run defense last season, so a big body like him that could dominate the line of scrimmage, man, it'd be essential. You got your edge guys already in place, so you know, I love to pick number one for the Arizona Cardinals.
Now, of course, there's been a lot of conversation about the quarterback situation there, whether Josh Rosen will be there. Obviously, Drew, you're approaching this as if Josh Rosen is your guy moving forward, and then beyond this first overall pick, I imagine you're addressing the offensive line.
Absolutely.
All right. With the second pick, Headley, you drafted Nick Bosa for the San Francisco 49ers. Why is that?
You know, CPGM Drew made it easy for me. He took the best player on our board off the board. So Nick Bosa, I think Nick Bosa, he fits perfect for that edge position for the San Francisco 49ers. I always go back to 35 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
It's a hell of a season for a quarterback.
Yeah. The 49ers didn't produce any interceptions, man. So getting the pass rusher to get to the football, they added D4. So having D4 to go along with Nick Bosa, just have your edges right, man, and it make everything easier for your DBs. Yeah, and I'm not sleeping on Nick, man. I kind of slept on Joey before, man, but these guys, he's a technician, man. He wins with his hands. He might not be the most bendy, twitchiest guy, and a lot of people knock him for that, but he's going to get it done, man. He's going to get it done in the run game and the pass game.
He's got a plan, and he's keeping the offensive tackle guard, whomever it is, on their toes, and that's kind of what you want, you know. And you have D4 on the other side, who's got the bend, who has all that extra dynamic, sexy, flash in the pan kind of skill set. So going to main course Butner, you mix it up, and you got a hell of a meal defensively in the trenches, you know. So that only bodes well for the guys who are in the secondary.
With the third overall pick, Drew, you're back on the clock, representing the Jets. You select your top edge rusher, Josh Allen.
This is my top player. But when me and Headley put ours together, Quintin Williams got the nod. This is my top player in this year's draft, and Josh Allen, who is, you know, I say it every draft season. Versatility is the new position in NFL. This is what Josh Allen is. He's a guy who can come off the edge. He's also a guy who can play in space, and he might be the best spatial awareness player in this draft. There might be a couple others you could throw out there, but in my estimation, he sits in the windows of where the quarterback wants to throw the football. He has a feel for what's coming in front of him, for what's behind him. He will jam at the line of scrimmage. He will run and turn with whomever he's covering, receiver, tight end, running back, whoever it is. It's a beautiful thing to watch. Not the sexiest dynamic pass rusher, but he gets the job done. Gets the job done.
And I think he's a perfect fit for what Greg Williams likes to do for the New York Jets. He likes to attack. He likes to get after the quarterback. use guys at different positions.
Yes.
And Josh Allen, like you said, is a versatile outside linebacker, man. You want him standing up, dropping in coverage, rushing off the edge. He could do it all. So, and the Jets, they've been missing this edge rusher for a long time now. They've been hitting inside with Leonard Williams on the team. They had Muhammad Wilkerson there before, Sheldon Richardson. But getting this edge dynamic player, man, is going to do wonders for this Jets defense.
And Josh Allen is, to me, a player you can build a defense around. A guy who he's going to make everyone else around him better, because he's going to allow people to be on the field in their most optimal position because of what he can do.
Yeah. Some people knock him because of, some pass rushing moves. They want to develop some more, get some inside rush. But 17 sacks, man, that's a number that translates to the next level, man. You get 17 sacks, that means you know how to hunt the quarterback, you know how to get after the quarterback. And a lot of those sacks was in crucial moments for Kentucky, man. So the Jets, man, getting Josh Allen's big.
Up next with the 4th overall pick is the Oakland Raiders. Headley representing the Raiders. You decide to draft Devin White. And before you really get into the player, particularly when you see, the Colts last year, who were able to grab Darius Leonard in the 2nd round.
Yeah.
And if you look at throughout the league, the Bobby Wagner was a 2nd round pick, and so on and so forth. There are quality backers that play that type of role, not necessarily being asked to rush the passer on a consistent basis. They tend to go a little bit later. Why Devin White in the top 5?
A couple of reasons, man. Start off with the depth at the position. The linebacker position, I think it's top heavy in this class. I think it's 2 elite off the ball linebackers, and then it drops after that. I know I love a Khalil Hodge, but I think it's 2 of them, man. And edge rushers is deep. It's a deep edge rusher class. And secondly, when teams yang, sometimes you got to yang.
I hear you.
You know what I'm saying? We got 3 defensive linemen going with the first 3 picks. You could go get the 4th guy, which is maybe a Cleveland Farrell, Brian Burns, however you slice it. But you could get one of the top 2 linebackers in the class that could also get after the quarterback. The Raiders struggle to get after the quarterback, and
so 2 birds with 1 stone.
Devin White's best attribute to me is rushing the quarterback.
When I saw this pick, I knew John Gruden wasn't the one making the pick. Can I say that? I'm picking on the Raiders. I don't want to pick on the Raiders. Don't pick on the Raiders. I thought it was when John Gruden wasn't making this pick. It was CPGM Headley who made the pick, and Devin White, man. I don't like linebackers this high. You spoke about the linebackers. A couple of linebackers who you don't.
No unorthodox.
You go a different direction. One of the concerns that I have is the angles at which he takes, and sometimes because you're so fast, you're so quick, you take bad angles that you over pursue. So there's a lot of room to grow. But just initially, I think that he's going to be the type of player where he's going to make a hell of a lot of plays, but he's going to miss a hell of a lot of plays. So you're going to kind of get that up and down. But I think year 2 is where you're going to get the guy that you drafted. You may not, top 5 pick, he's got to make an impact immediately. He will, but he's going to miss too. And he's exceptional in coverage.
I think the main thing with Devin White is the fact that he's going to make some mistakes, like you said, but he's going to make them fast.
Yeah.
He's going to make them fast, and that's what coaches like. They understand that there's going to be some growing pains, but do it full speed. Let's move on to the 5th overall pick, and it will be the Tampa Bay Bucks. Drew, you're a Bucks fan, representing the Tampa Bay Bucks. What are you doing with the 5th overall pick?
Bucks need a pass rusher. Opposite of JPP. Still don't know what they're doing. We don't know if they're running a 3-4. We don't know if they're running a 4-3. Devin White is off the board. Thank you very much. I like to have a slew of pass rushers. Brian Burns. I didn't know what to expect going into his tape. There's a lot of scuttlebutt on Twitter and scuttlebutt like that. Is that the right word?
Yes.
Okay.
Some people don't understand the love for Brian Burns.
No, and I saw some hate today about him, by the way. He disappears and whatnot. But anyways, this is the type of guy who can do, he has great spatial awareness. He comes off the edge with a burst. He's got a couple of words. Check out that draft profile. That thing is pretty hefty and heavy. Florida State guy talking. But he's going to give Todd Bowles in that defense. There it is, an injection. A pass rush that they've needed for I don't know since Simeon Rice.
Jesus.
Yeah. Brian Burns, man, we know he can hunt the quarterback. We've seen it at Florida State. Plethora of pass rushing moves. It's not his first step; it's his 2nd and 3rd step. How he bends the edge. He might be the most bendiest pass rusher. Is that the word? Bendiest?
Flexible.
He's probably the most flexible pass rusher in the class. How he could contort his body and get after the quarterback. But what we've seen at the combine, how he was dropping back in coverage, intercepting passes.
He's making it look easy.
Making it look easy, so that's just an added benefit for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Todd Bowles that
3-4 defense.
we could drop him in coverage.
Yeah.
So with getting to Brian Burns, you thinking 3-4?
I hope so.
It certainly, at a minimum, it allows you to do some different things. Even if you go multiple with his frame, you know, and the length, of course, I think he could put his hand in the ground. And certainly, you know, there's some question marks, and you can definitely check out our draft profile on Brian Burns in terms of him being able to hold up consistently against the run. But as far as being a pass rusher, if you stand him up or you put his hand in the ground, he can do that, which means he's going to have an impact immediately. And there's certainly room for him to grow. Next up with the 6th pick, the first of 2 first-round picks is the New York Giants. And Headley, you selected Colin Murray from Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm not playing any games, man. You know, the Giants and Gettleman, they might want to play games and say Colin Murray's too small, Dwayne Haskins doesn't fit my system. They're playing a lot of games right now. I'm not doing it. I'm rushing to the podium. I'm getting the best quarterback in this class, Colin Murray, elusive. He just gets to places quick, fast, in a hurry. His ball placement, that's what I love the most about him. I know what he does with his legs, but his ball placement, you don't have the best receivers. So you want a quarterback that can get the ball right where it's supposed to be. And just have him and Saquon Barkley doing read options it's scary, man. So give me Colin Murray, the quarterback, and the whole Odell Beckham thing. People are going to forget about that once they see Colin Murray play again.
It's a bold statement.
That's a bold statement. You want him out there doing RPOs, and you know the people was talking about his size and all that. And, you know,
I have a thought on that. And I think you keep it to a minimum. You need to give more often than not. And I think RPO is best, particularly when you have a quarterback that's going to run it. For instance, Nick Foles runs the RPO, but he's not
a runner,
very athletic in that sense. You know what I mean? He's not a runner. He's not a ball carrier. You know what I mean? So there's some nuance to it, number one. And I think RPO for the Giants, if you're talking Colin Murray and Saquon Barkley, comes into effect much more in the red zone. That's when I want to put the stress on the defense for them to have to make a decision to deal with Saquon, who could break you off, or Colin Murray, who can just outrun you. You know what I mean?
And I think it also makes Saquon Barkley more effective.
Absolutely.
Because the edge guys, they can't come crashing inside. There's going to be more holes. In the Giants, they want to run the football. They got Zeitler in a trade this season. They added Solder and Hernandez last season. So run the football, get your quarterback, and make everybody better, man. So Colin Murray's the pick for me.
We're obviously going to get more into the Giants and the makeup of the team and what's happened, including the Odell trade, because they have a subsequent pick. But we're going to move on at this point to the 7th overall pick. The Jaguars on the clock. Drew, you made the pick for them. T.J. Hockenson, the tight end out of Iowa. Why'd you make that particular selection?
If I told you was getting a Travis Kelce possibly, would you be okay with that? If I told you was getting a George Kittle, would you be okay with that? If you don't know who those 2 players are, I need you to...
I didn't know.
They know? Okay, if you don't know...
Respect them.
If you don't know...
Those guys were day 2, day 3 picks. To not necessarily have that go-to player. They thought it was Allen Robinson. He's no longer there on the perimeter. So what are you going to do?
This is the go-to guy.
Okay.
This is the guy that takes pressure off of Leonard Fournette. This is the guy who's going to take pressure off of Nick Foles. This is the guy who's going to open things up for all the receivers that's on the roster. This is a guy who he's a hell of a player in the open field. He's a guy who can block. He does everything that a tight end has to be able to do. Block like an offensive lineman and run routes like a receiver. And most of the time, most systems in the NFL, the safety blanket is the tight end.
Sure.
Yeah, he's that and more.
Yeah, I just like him because he's the prototypical wide tight end, inline, he's going to line up with his hand in the ground. We just seen Grunt retire, man. He's one of those guys that can get it done in the pass and the run game. T.J. Hawkinson's the same thing. He's going to improve the Jaguars' running game, and that's what they want to do. Jaguars want to run the football and play defense. So if you get a guy that can improve Leonard Fournette in that offensive line and also help Nick Foles in the passing game, hey, I'm not mad at the pick, man.
It's a multifaceted pick. I think that's really when you kind of peel back the layers of it. Again, tight end selected that high may not necessarily give you the wow factor, but you turn the tape on and you see the wow. You know what I mean? And his ability to play in line and also make plays in the passing game will go a long way for this particular team, particularly in terms of how they want to approach things. You saw Nick Foles with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. They get, the top tight end in this particular class, our 10th overall prospect in the CPGM top 50, and he can be a difference maker right away, despite the fact that tight end is usually a position that takes a little bit of time for guys to kind of find their way. Rounding out the top 8 is going to be the Detroit Lions, and Headley, you're back on the clock. You selected Clelin Ferrell out of Clemson, edge rusher.
Edge, man. You lost a Ziggy Ansah, man. This is the perfect replacement for Ziggy. He does a lot of the same things Ziggy can do. He can get after the passer. He's an edge setter. He's an edge setter. He has these long arms. I love his get out from the football, attacks the quarterback, gets strip sacks. I think that's very important, man. Not only are you getting to the quarterback, but you putting the ball on the floor and getting turnovers, man. And Detroit Lions, man, they needed a pass rush for a while now. Even with Ziggy, they needed somebody opposite him. So getting a Ferrell, I think this would be big for them.
You've mentioned you think Ferrell is scheme versatile.
Yeah.
And the Lions, Matt Patricia, they like to play a little bit of Legos. They like to play the 4-3 a little bit, odd man front, kind of mix that in. So I actually liken Ferrell a lot to DeMarcus Lawrence. I think he's a better prospect coming out than Lawrence, but I think what Lawrence has become is kind of what I think Ferrell is actually the direction that he's kind of going in. All right, with the 9th overall pick, Drew's back on the clock, representing the Buffalo Bills, and he selects Ed Oliver, 3-technique extraordinaire.
Couldn't pass him up. Can't let him drop anymore. He should be playing in a one-gap scheme, and I got to be honest, I don't know if we know his true potential, and most, I think, would say is Aaron Donald, because of his skill set.
It's a hell of a ceiling.
But I don't know his true potential because he was misused at Houston. Who's to say it's not higher than that? And I don't know what that looks like, but that's a hell of a player.
Yeah, Houston, man, he was out of position, nose tackle, 5-technique. They would never put him in a 3-technique because of the defense they ran, and he was never able to get that pressure off the quarterback because he got one of the fastest get-offs on the defensive line, man. And yeah, Ed Oliver, this is one of my draft crushes, man. I just love his movements and him next to Harrison Phillips with the Buffalo Bills. I think this is a perfect marriage right here. I don't think the Buffalo Bills could pass on an Ed Oliver. Maybe they might go Christian Wilkins, but nah, man. Ed Oliver over Christian Wilkins all day, especially if you want to get after the quarterback.
Ed Oliver comes in as a 4th overall prospect in the CPGM top 50. The Bills, they were busy in free agency. They brought in Cole Beasley, John Brown, field stretcher, slot guy. They added a key piece to the offensive line, Mitch Morse. I think that particular signing, considering the issues that they have along the offensive line, we've said it before, the Bills have to focus inside out.
Yeah.
They have to focus inside out. So bringing in Mitch Morse gives you the flexibility to go grab Oliver, who to your point, has a ceiling that we're not sure where it's at. Headley, you're back on the clock with the 10th overall pick, and you selected another off-the-ball linebacker. And again, not necessarily going to rehash what we discussed with Devin White, but it's a little unorthodox to have guys who don't traditionally attack the line of scrimmage in terms of being a pass rusher at the 2nd level go this high. Why do you like Devin Bush for the Broncos?
Just like I said with Devin White, it's a depth at the linebacker position, and I think these two guys are the top linebackers by a lot in this draft class. I know you say Khalil Hodge. We're going to keep talking about that. But, yeah, Devin Bush. At first, when I looked at the Denver Broncos, I was thinking maybe cornerback. They lost a lot of cornerbacks over the last couple seasons. But in free agency, they addressed it with Bryce Callahan, Kareem Jackson. And so with Vic Fangio not coming over, we got to think about a Vic Fangio defense. What does Vic Fangio always have? Bowman and Patrick Willis. He drafted Roquan Smith last season next to Jenny Trevathan. Brandon Marshall's not in the fold no more in Denver. So why not add Devin Bush, the linebacker one on my board, to the mix, man?
And every time I think about the Denver Broncos of last year, I think about Will Dissly. Lighting them up like a Christmas tree. Who else lit them up? George Kittle. You see what I'm saying? And they had, I mean, you can talk about the names that they had on the roster in terms of the linebackers, but them boys were slow.
Sure.
Spatial awareness wasn't good. Couldn't cover. I mean, it wasn't good. And you get a character, you get a prospect, and a Devin Bush who adds a little thump, and who can move sideline to sideline. I know a couple people don't believe that.
Full speed. Man.
I mean,
y'all sparky guys.
I don't know what to tell you. But
they were questioning him. They were questioning him. He checked all the boxes.
And then his movement, backpedaling and coverage, that kind of was eye-opening to me. I didn't know he could move that well going backwards. I know he could go forward, side to side. He could decipher. but he looks like he could move backwards in coverage also.
Yeah, man, going into the tape, man, I heard all he ain't good as Devin White, this, that, and the other, and I was like, yo, I don't know what they've been looking at. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong tape. So let me go to the next one. Let me go to another one.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go to another one. And it's the same player over and over and over and over. And this is a hell of a pick, and it's a good start to the Vic Fangio defense.
All right, moving on to the 11th overall pick, Drew. Devin White, Devin Bush off the board.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of liked, one of those players maybe coming in for the Bengals, considering that, Vontaze Burfict is no longer there. They've had some issues in terms of their second level of their defense. You decided to go with Jonah Williams, first offensive lineman off the board here. Why'd you pick Jonah Williams?
This is another, I can't pass it up.
Sure.
This is at this point in the draft, when you look at one side of the ball, when you talk about the Bengals one side of the ball, I mean, the only deficiency they had was at linebacker. I mean, I know that they struggled, statistically, mightily.
Yes.
It was bad.
Yes. But talent-wise, I completely agree.
Talent, and what they need right now isn't there. So we're not going to reach for a guy. Although the guy I'm thinking about, we'll say it again, Khalil Hodge, they could go for him, but he's probably going to fall for whatever reason. I don't know. Nobody's paying attention. I'm just saying, nobody's paying attention. But that may be a guy you get in the second, third round, whatever. But we need to protect Andy Dalton. Since that's the train we're rolling with, since that's the guy we're gonna run with, let's go ahead and protect Andy Dalton and let's let Joe Mixon get up and around that corner and have a damn chance where he doesn't have to fight to pass the line of scrimmage.
Gotcha.
And Jonah Williams, this is a guy who brings substance to the offensive line. This is a plug and play player. This is an impact player. This is a guy you throw in there and there's not much you have to worry about.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
To me, he's one of the safest players in this class, man. He's a real safe floor. I'm a Florida State fan, man, and that's the college I root for. I know tough times, but with being a State fan, you can't have Bobby Hart out there, man.
Yeah, I don't know. He was praising him.
He just got $7 million. He just got $7 million.
That's in the event Jonah Williams isn't there, or there's someone else that they just can't pass up.
Yeah, exactly, man. So you can't have him out there. So getting the Jonah Williams to go with a Cordy Glenn, I think that's a perfect bookend right there. So I love the pick for the Cincinnati Bengals. The only other position you may think of other than the linebacker position is what about that quarterback? Dwayne Haskins still on the board.
I can't do it. He's on the board. He's the highest player on the board. We're gonna run with it. That's
staying true to your board.
Yeah,
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. You could have brought in the Ohio kid, but you're gonna protect what you have, and whomever will replace that eventually. At least in my estimation. 12th up on the clock, the Green Bay Packers. Headley, you made an interesting selection here.
I've made a lot of interesting.
Yes, you did. You have. You most certainly have. This is yet another interesting selection. And certainly based on what he did at the Combine and his counting statistics while at Mississippi State, Montez Sweat is a first-round caliber talent. I think there are mock drafts out there with him in the top 5 going to your Bucks. At any rate, he comes into Green Bay. And the reason why the position at where he's being selected in terms of the pick number is fine. But the team is a bit of a question mark. The Green Bay spent heavily in free agency overhauling their pass rush. There's no more Clay Matthews, no more Nick Perry. Now you have Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith. And they spent big.
Yeah.
It's not chump change by any stretch of the imagination. You're going back to the well. Why'd you select Montez Sweat?
The biggest issue Green Bay have had over the last, how many seasons?
Sure.
3-4 years is getting after the quarterback. Last season we saw them double down at cornerback position. So they're not a team that's scared to double or even triple down at a position. My thought process is, we need to get after the quarterback, and what's the best way to get after the quarterback? Get the horses to get after the quarterback. Yep. So in sub packages, you can have a Preston Smith on the edge. You move Zadarius Smith as an inside rusher, have Montez Sweat on the other edge, and then you have a Kenny Clark. You got 4 guys that can rush the quarterback and get after the quarterback. So to me, I thought it was a good pick, man. Only other way they could have went maybe offensive side of the football, maybe get a receiver or a tight end to go with Aaron Rodgers.
Noah Fant, they're yelling right now. They're yelling Noah Fant.
But
GM, what are you doing?
Sometimes you got to have an embarrassment of riches, man, and get at the quarterback and have waves to get at the quarterback.
Waves of pass rushes is the direction you're going in.
And I don't object to going pass rusher. I just object to going with this pass rusher.
I know how you feel about Sweat.
You know how I feel about Jeffrey Simmons. But I'm okay with the pick in terms of the position. this is what Green Bay does. They like to double dip, triple dip. They want to be prepared. You know, not everybody's going to stay healthy. Not that you're going to make a pick based off of, you know, is this guy, that guy going to stay healthy? But, you know, why not have waves of pass rushers? There's nothing wrong with that. And what Sweat brings to the table, he is a hell of an edge setter. He has a nice bull rush.
Yeah, and you know how I'm looking at it also? They just drafted those 2 young corners last year, Josh Jackson, Jair Alexander. Those guys are aggressive corners that wants the quarterback to get the ball out of hands quickly. They could jump it, they could go pick 6. So if you're getting a guy like Montez Sweat that can get after the quarterback, and you have Preston Smith that I think can get after the quarterback, why not, man?
It comes down to, certainly when you go to sub packages and you're keeping bodies fresh, Montez Sweat, you know, having those trio of edge rushers can be beneficial. I think it's also incumbent on Mike Pettin, if you go that route, to be able to find a way to make sure that those guys are getting the requisite number of snaps so that they can impact the game. All right, coming in with the 13th overall pick is the Miami Dolphins. Drew, you're back on the clock. You decided to go with a Gator. Jawan Taylor, offensive tackle. They lost Juwan James. He's now in Denver. Ryan Fitzpatrick is at the controls. A lot of people thinking this is a tank season. Dwayne Haskins is on the board, but you're saying, no, I'm not going to do Dwayne Haskins. I'm going with Juwan Taylor. Why?
No, I mean, the boss has spoken.
Okay.
Stephen Ross has spoken.
Sure.
He said, yo, I want Tua from Alabama. And, you know, this is the type of player who you put him out there at right tackle, and you're really not going to have to worry. This is a plug-and-play player. There's not much you're going to have to worry, although, you know, I do question him, you know, when he gets too far back in his drop that, you know, he's kind of in no man's land, but that rarely happened, and he's a hell of a run blocker, a mauler.
I think the Dolphins' biggest needs are along the trenches, both trenches.
Yes.
So, you know, getting a guy like Jawan Taylor to book in with Larry Tunsil, whichever quarterback you put back there next year, it's going to be Fitzpatrick this year, they're saying, or next year, whoever you draft, or if you draft another guy later in this draft, it just helps protect him. It just helps develop your young quarterback. The Dolphins are going to want to run the football. So, yeah, man, I love the pick of Jawan Taylor right here.
New coaching staff coming from that New England tree. When New England is at their best, they're controlling the line of scrimmage. Build it from the inside out. With the 14th overall pick, Headley, you're back on the clock, representing your Falcons. And you selected your top corner in this class, Deandre Baker out of Georgia.
Yeah, Deandre Baker, man. The curious case of Deandre Baker, man. Went to the combine, didn't show up. They say poo-poo the bed, man. His draft stocks is falling. They're questioning his football love, his character. They're questioning a lot of things about him right now. But on tape, man, this guy was the best cornerback in the class. The cover skills, mirror match ability, and I love him in zone, man. So the Falcons run predominantly a cover 3 zone defense, and I think he could thrive there, man. I think that the Falcons, they lost Brian Poole and Robert Alford this offseason, so
got to replenish the secondary.
I can't pass on Baker right here, man. You want me to say it?
Yeah, man.
I just don't want to see Isaiah Oliver on the field, predominantly on the field, man. Make him play in dime coverage or something.
Sub packages.
I don't think he's ready yet, man. I think Deandre Baker will come in and be immediately better than Isaiah Oliver. He got to show me, man. You gotta show me. I didn't see it on the college tape, and when he played last year for the Falcons, he got done, man. He got done, man. I seen it. You seen that play against Cincinnati when he was playing that zone and he let the guy get behind him for the game-winning touchdown?
Yeah.
I know he's a rookie, man, so I don't want to be too hard on him. He could develop. I seen Jalen Collins develop into a pretty decent player before the PEDs.
There's been a lot of talk about pass rush. Again, this is a very deep class in terms of pass rush. Instead of going pass rush here, you go in corner. And understandably, considering the losses they've had in that secondary, the lack of confidence in Isaiah Oliver.
Yep.
Why not pass rusher here, though? Do you think that Baker's just a better prospect than the pass rushers that are currently on the board?
I think so personally. If you think about pass rushers, the next guys would be Rashawn Gary, Christian Wilkins, but he plays more of the 3 technique where Grady Jarrett is. And I'm not opposed to having both of them out there in pass rushing situations, but I think the Falcons could get a pretty solid pass rusher later in the second round. But yeah, Baker, man, Baker is my he's one of my top 10 prospects in the entire class. So you know, based on his talent level, man, I don't think the Falcons should pass on him.
And the reason why I ask is because obviously the fan base in Atlanta, they seem to be growing a little tired of Vic Beasley. I think there's some nuance there. I don't think that's just he's not any good. I think there's some nuance there. Tag McKinley has some injury concerns, and then Grady Jarrett, we're not sure about his long-term prospects in Atlanta. He's been franchise tagged. So
no, it makes sense. And Rashawn Gary kind of fits the mold of a Dan Quinn player. Very athletic. He could play edge on running downs. He could come in the middle on passing downs. He's versatile. So I can see the Falcons going that way too. But in terms of just putting players on the board and who's a better prospect, I go Deandre Baker.
Washington Redskins on the clock with the 15th overall pick. Drew, you represented Washington in this case. You decided to bring in or draft Dwayne Haskins, despite the fact that Washington traded for Case Keenum. What's your thought process there?
Yeah, man. I sat down with Daniel Snyder and Bruce Allen. I sat down. We had some Coors Lights.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay.
I had an Angry Orchard. They was drinking Coors Light.
All right.
And we discussed we need a quarterback at this point. We kind of know what Case Keenum is, but we need a star. We're gonna be paying Alex Smith for the next 2 seasons, but he's not gonna be playing.
No.
So that might end up being an injury settlement. We move on, but we need a quarterback. Okay, we need a guy who can lead this team.
Yeah.
Do we need receivers? A receiver? Yeah, probably. But at this point in the draft, you can't pass on a quarterback.
Yeah. This is a sweet spot. This is a sweet spot for Dwayne Haskins, I think.
And when you talk about the offensive line, and we talked about it last year, as long as they can stay healthy up front, the Washington Redskins have a chance. Did they stay healthy up front?
No.
How about last year? So
and
the year before that, somebody must have put a hex on these guys. Something, I don't know what you're doing out there. I don't know who it is, but you need to undo the curse.
I got an idea.
You got an idea?
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, I got an idea too. Go ahead.
Yeah, it just came to me.
Everybody's on the same wavelength.
Haskins is the type of player, that is pocket quarterback. A guy who's going to stand in the pocket, stand down the barrel of the gun, and make the throw. And not try to be the hero, play sandlot football, play hero football, and run the offense like it's supposed to be ran.
Yeah, it's the idea.
Yeah. I love Haskins as a prospect, and he could be a guy that you don't have to start him right away. I think he could learn the playbook, sit behind a Colt McCoy,
1 year starter.
Case Keenum. He's a 1 year starter. Sure. So but what I do love about him is he got better as the year progressed. He ended it on a high note. He takes what the defense gives him, short to intermediate. He's not going to really force much passes. He's going to just try to matriculate the ball down the field. And, I think he could develop into a future star in this league, man, with the right coaching and the right mentors in front of him.
All right. Interestingly enough, the 2 quarterbacks that came off the board in the first round, both 1 year starters. Do it very differently. It goes to show how the league has changed in terms of being able to get these guys up to speed and without necessarily a ton of film.
And these guys don't play on the center really either.
No. Nobody plays.
The league has changed.
Except for Brady.
Thomas.
Jared Goff. That being said, those were the 2 quarterbacks starting in the Super Bowl, by the way. Yeah. At any rate, the 16th overall pick, Headley, you're back on the clock representing the Carolina Panthers. You decided to go with Rashawn Gary. He's an interesting prospect here.
He never really quite lived up to the billing of a 5-star recruit. At Michigan.
Superior athlete.
I kind of think he was out of position similar to Ed Oliver. They asked him to play a lot on the edge. I think he's best in the interior. But for a guy like this athletic, he's versatile. He could play edge on first and second downs or running situations, move inside on pass situations, and get after the quarterback, man. This is a guy I was kind of hard on him in my initial evaluation. I'm coming around a little bit to him. He's a player that could get better if put in the right situation. Some people got him as high as number 4 to the Oakland Raiders. So I think the Carolina Panthers be ecstatic to see him drop to number 16. They just lost Julius Pepper, so to slide him in there opposite of Mario Addison.
Next up with the 17th overall pick, the Giants making the second of their 2 first-round picks. Drew, you selected Marquise Hollywood Brown for the Giants.
He's not only the Odell Beckham replacement, he's just another weapon for the quarterback they're going to have outside of Eli.
Sure.
And Colin Murray. Both of these guys went to Oklahoma, so you have that match right there. But what Marquise is bringing to the table, man, is a guy with a whole lot of speed, a guy who in my estimation, watching him in his routes, there's a lot of repetitiveness, and then at the top of the route, he's going to break you off. There was a lot of times where he was being grabbed, held, tackled, because if he's let loose before the ball gets there, it's a wrap.
In other words, a guy that you think can make an impact even if the ball's not coming his way.
Yep, because you got to respect that speed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't teach speed. Obviously, it's one of those few traits that you can't teach. So a lot of sexy and flash that left the building in Odell Beckham, and I think you get that back in a Marquise Brown. It's not quite I want to say the shiftiness of an Odell Beckham, but the speed factor you're gonna have to respect as a defense.
Yeah, man, this guy's a weapon. I think you should use him like how the Chiefs use Tyreek Hill. Come in some jet sweeps,
right?
Some
Just get him touches, get the eye line of the defense moving. Yeah,
you know, I think it'd be beneficial for everyone on the team to have a weapon like Hollywood Brown on your roster. And Drew talked about the route running, man. I seen him do a lot of double moves, man. He puts the defenders to sleep and he blazes by them. What he does in the open field, yards after catch, he's dynamic. I'll say that word again. He's a very dynamic prospect that the Giants are in desperate need of right now.
You know, I want to kind of expand the conversation regarding the Giants. Again, it's well documented, the trade of Odell Beckham to Cleveland, Olivier Vernon going to Cleveland. There's a need there. Dave Gettleman, of course, this is what you guys would do as GMs. I think David Gettleman will probably go defensive line in the top 10 and then come back and try to grab a quarterback in the teens. That's what my thought process is. I think his track record, whether it be in New York or in Carolina, it suggests that I'm going to pay the guys closest to the line of scrimmage. You know, I'm okay with the thought process that we need to build it inside out. But again, when you have a unique talent like an Odell Beckham, it's hard to stomach that. You have all that dead money on the cap, and there's a chance that they can come out of on the other end, because they didn't win anything with Odell. They didn't win anything with Odell. So there's a chance that they can come out on the other end fairly clean, you know, a year or two from now. But to win championships, you got to have that defense.
Yeah.
But more often than not, in that 17-week, 16-game regular season, you got to score points. Moving on to the 18th overall pick, Minnesota Vikings. Headley, you went with Garrett Bradbury here, center out of NC State.
Garrett Bradbury. My philosophy is, you know, a lot of people say, you know, Kirk Cousins, this and that. Get Dalvin Cook some more help. You know, Dalvin Cook getting more help would in turn make Kirk Cousins a better quarterback. So Garrett Bradbury's a plug-and-play center. You can move F-line to guard. A zone scheme fit. The Vikings, we've got Gary Kubiak over there now, so they're going to be running that zone scheme. I think this is just a perfect marriage.
You know, when you look at the Vikings roster and you look at, you know, okay, what do they need going into the offseason? Yo, the defense is stacked, ready to go, and you look over at the offense, and the biggest issue, the eyesore that you see is the offensive line. I mean, you got a running back, you got a capable quarterback in Kirk Cousins, you got two superstar receivers, the self-proclaimed
That's tight end
in the league, and Kyle Rudolph.
Yep.
And then you look at the offensive line, they got a couple of guys, but the other guys, they're not it. You know what I mean? And putting a guy in the middle in a Bradbury kind of solidifies that, and you push Elfline out, like you said, to guard. Things start to plug in and
starting to come together.
Come together.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you both that, of course, it starts up front, as we've mentioned ad nauseum. Dalvin Cook's health will go a long way in determining how successful this team can be. Next up is the 19th overall pick. Drew, you're representing the Titans here. And
another Gator, man.
Another Gator. Go figure. We have another Gator. A Gator that you really like, Headley. But Drew, let's talk about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, defensive back.
That's a lot right
there. Yeah, it is a mouthful right there.
So looking at this roster with the Titans, you're looking through it and you wonder, where do they have holes? Where are the holes? You know, and they don't really have holes. It's one of the most solid teams. Can you say that? Most solid teams?
Sure. That's a position, though. By understanding those.
No, I mean,
quarterback position.
What?
I'm messing with you. Throwing shots. You saying they solidify everything? That's one position.
There's so much hate. But when you look at this team as a whole, it's a solid football team, player by player, position by position. So I thought, you know, where's that one position they might need a little bit of help? Safety, nickel back, a guy who can be versatile, who can play a little corner if you need him to, can come down in the box, cover the tight end, come in the box and take somebody's head off, or just, you know, if you want him to play the free. It's a moving piece for that defense, and this is that guy. This is that guy. I mean,
versatility incarnate right there.
Period. Yeah, you know, I've heard other people say, you know, they like him at the free safety role, but I like him in the box. I like him around the line of scrimmage, closer, you know, kind of a quote-unquote Derwin James type of thing. But it's just an added piece that kind of solidifies that defense as a whole. You know, you got...
it's an impressive group that they
I mean,
put
it's
together
ridiculous.
there.
Ridiculous. I mean, and he's doing it kind of silently over to John Robinson. They're piecing it together, you know, and I mean, according to Headley, they're missing one piece.
I'm a big fan of Gardiner Johnson. This is another one of my draft crushes, man. He just, the intensity he comes on the football field with. He flies around, he gets his hands on the football, play the run pass, his blitzing off the edge. That's what I really like on Chauncey Gardiner Johnson. So add him to an already improving Tennessee Titans defense, and you know, you're gonna have yourself a problem in the AFC South.
Headley, you're back on the clock. You go with a guy that Drew really likes.
It's a cornerback one.
Cornerback one here, Byron Murphy out of Washington. What do you like about Murphy in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I think he's perfect for the zone scheme that Pittsburgh Steelers run. I know that, you know, Joe Hayden's still out there. He's getting longer than two. Artie Burns, we don't know which Artie Burns is going to show up week to week. So I think Byron Murphy's a perfect fit for that zone scheme. He's very instinctive. You know, he breaks on the football quickly. Great ball skills, and when he gets the ball, man, he can take it the distance.
Headley forgot to mention this: a guy who has no issues sticking his head in there, coming downhill, making tackles, and you know, he might be coming from the new DBU in Washington because they got some ballers over there. Just you know, looking at the Murphy tape, I mean, there's a lot of guys surrounding around him. I know that, you know, if you pair him with a Joe, is he taking Joe Hayden's spot? Or is he taking Artie Burns' spot? What are we doing?
Artie.
Probably the latter.
Yeah. Artie? Where's Artie from?
Hit me with
Where's Artie from?
He's from the U.
Okay, they can't hear you, bro.
He's from the U.
Okay, just want to know.
I still got some hope in Artie, man.
I do too. I think it's a confidence thing too. That's not a good position to be lacking in confidence, though. It's not. I will say this in terms of that pick. You know, a lot of attention obviously has been, you know, the whole Killer Bees and the saga, Lev Bell, Antonio Brown. Is Ben Roethlisberger a good teammate? This, that, and the other. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think in order for Pittsburgh, as it's newly constituted, to be effective and good and in the playoff hunt, is that they're going to have to play a lot better defensively. Yeah. All of the breakdowns and the coverage and so on, that has to go away. It has to go away. And a lot of times the thing about zone is that you're doing a lot of thinking. You know, the zone is not everybody can play zone. I think people tend to assume that, oh, it's zone, it's soft. It's when you have a guy that you're responsible for lining up across from you, it generally comes down to your technique and athleticism at that point. Whereas zone, you got to make sure that your other guy is doing his job and he's in the flat. It's not easy to execute the zone when you're doing it defensively on a consistent basis, particularly if you're not getting to the passer. So I think this pick goes a long way into solidifying that Pittsburgh Steelers defense. We're going back to the well at cornerback. Drew, you're on the clock with Seattle at 21, and you got Greedy.
Yeah,
Greedy Williams out of LSU.
I got Greedy. This is a perfect fit, and in the Seattle defense cover 3, this is exactly where Greedy needs to be. You know, where he can play off and kind of turn and run, as we call it, and play the ball in the air. The thing about Greedy Williams is he's everything you want in a corner. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the length, he's got the ball skills. Yeah. He's everything you want, but on any given play, you're not getting all of that. You're getting a guy who's kind of hit or miss. You're getting a guy who's not always focused. You're getting a guy who's sometimes not willing to come down and stick his head in there. And we know that the Seattle corners of old, those are guys coming downhill. Those are aggressive corners. And obviously that helps when you have an Earl Thomas back there who can run around and
erase mistakes.
Exactly. Yeah. They don't quite have that. But if you're getting the full potentialed Greedy Williams, you're getting a hell of a player. Just, are you getting that?
Yeah, man.
Snap in, snap out.
Yeah, the issues I have with Greedy, I think you mentioned some of them. It's just the footwork, the back pedal technique is not really there at this moment. So going to a defense where it's like Seattle Seahawks that are going to play a lot of off coverage, zone. I think this it's going to showcase his skills, man. This is a perfect landing spot for Greedy Williams. And you know, I would have said, you know, Legion of Boom is gone now. There's no more Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, versus Sherman. And if they were there, it would have been better for Greedy Williams to kind of, you know, pick their brain practice with
The
these
culture.
guys and
The
the
culture.
culture, man,
Yeah.
the culture. But
Yeah.
you still got some Bobby Wagner there,
Mhm.
so I just think it's guys like that needs to grab Greedy and say, hey, coach him up, and
We need this. We know what you're capable of. We need it out of you, down in, down out. You know what I mean? I think that's really the concern here. Obviously the mock draft's a little bit different. You guys, favor Deandre Baker and Byron Murphy, respectively, over Greedy Williams for that reason.
Yep.
Not necessarily the talent, but you need to clean up some things technically, and you're concerned or questioning whether or not he has that dog in him, that mentality. The fit is absolutely perfect here. I personally think, just given his measurables, given the fact that he is prototypical, you know what I mean, and he runs so well, he's probably going to go a little bit earlier.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
it's Pete Carroll guy.
yeah, exactly. Next up, Headley, is the Ravens at the 22nd overall pick. You went with a guy that has basically tumbled out of the first round.
He might be tumbling out the second round also.
So
What?
Ja'Kai Polite to the Ravens. The Ravens lost a lot of talent defensively. They lost over 3,500 defensive snaps this past season.
T. Sizzle's not there anymore.
Mhm.
Moses not there anymore.
Yeah.
Eric Weddle.
Yeah.
A lot of guys gone.
Smith, yep.
And Ravens fans, man, don't kill me for this. I know you say, we could get Polite in the second and third round, but go watch this tape, man. That's all I'm going to say, man. This guy moves around like he's Von Miller. Is like a point guard and with handles. You can't get in front of him. He knows how to maneuver himself and get to the quarterback. Yes, there are some character issues, off the field things going on. Does he love football? He needs to answer that before the draft starts, man. But based on talent alone, with the Ravens losing Terrell Suggs, right now they have Tyus Bowser and Tim Williams on the edges. Those were rookies a couple seasons ago. Hasn't really panned out as much. They're going to be asked to do a lot more this season. Why not add a Polite into the mix and see if you can get two out of those three players to start on your edges?
I'm disappointed, man, because you didn't really show up at the combine, and it's really disappointing to know that you didn't come to work. This is all you have to do is be ready.
It's your biggest job interview.
With the 23rd overall pick, Drew, you representing the Houston Texans as GM, you decided to select Noah Fant. Now, before we get into discussing the very athletic, gifted tight end out of Iowa, a second tight end out of Iowa in the first round, the Texans were terrible in terms of protecting the quarterback.
The worst.
Watson got sacked 62 times. He's had a season-ending injury in his first two seasons already. You gotta protect this guy. You gotta protect this guy. I like it as a luxury pick. But I feel like this team desperately has to do a better job and improve along the offensive line. And I think this is a good spot to do so. You decided against that. Why is that?
Listen, I don't disagree with you.
Sure.
I'm trying to get the best of both worlds.
I would say the Houston Texans, they do need a presence in the middle of the field. Too often times it's Will Fuller on the outside deep, Hopkins on the outside. They don't really have that. Kiki Kuti kind of did a little bit last season. He got hurt. But they do need a presence in the middle of the field. But I'm with Juice here, man. I think like Andre Dillard, a Dalton Rising, I think those would be better picks here because of that offensive line. But I do see what you're saying, that Noah Fant could kind of do both.
I'm not sure if you're actually knocking out two birds with one stone, because again, it's clear to me that, and you agree, they can't protect when the Texans need to be able to push the football down the field on third and long, and we need to keep our franchise upright. Noah Fant's not going to give you anything in that department. I don't think.
He's going to be running trying to get the first down.
Exactly.
But in my mind, I'm imagining that offense. That we have a Will Fuller, we have a DeAndre Hopkins. Now we added a Noah Fant who can do both block and be dynamic in the passing game. I think that takes the pressure off the offensive line. And as long as we're willing to hand the football off to Lamar Miller, quarterback whisperer, I think that only helps the offensive line.
This is one of those situations where you might be right. You might be right, but I think you're putting, I think you're putting the rims, the Daytons, on the vehicle that is busted. You know what I'm saying? They don't have a transmission in it.
Although I'm with you, Juice, on what Drew did here. I agree with you. I'm gonna shoot you some bail, Drew. A lot of times when I watch Deshaun Watson, he just didn't have a receiver to get open quickly enough for him to throw him the ball.
Sure.
So if you have a Noah Fant here, he can get the ball out quickly and don't have to rely on his offensive line to block 3, 4, 5 seconds.
And I to that point, I think it's not just a personnel situation, which is what you're trying to address, but it's also the coaching. I think that's what's being called. I think that's the nature of what Bill O'Brien wants to do
play call
offensively.
It's
Absolutely.
the nature of the offense.
Absolutely.
You have a receiver in Hopkins who's not a separator, but a contested catch, a guy who's going to catch the football if you throw it to him. But if you don't look open, I might not throw it to you.
Sure.
You got double coverage. If you're in a position where you think you're open, but from my vantage point, you're not, I'm not going to throw the football.
Nah, Hopkins is double team most of the
Most.
time.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's about the other guys I'm talking about. They're not
Absolutely, absolutely. But here's the thing. What isn't changing here is the play caller. The play caller still wants to do plays that are going to take time to develop. He's still going to call plays. Hoskins is still going to get double teamed. Will Fuller, for the 8 games that he's going to be out there, is going to be running deep in cuts, 9 routes, deep posts, and double moves. Plays that take time to develop.
But what about my tight end who can the guy cover?
We'll see if Bill O'Brien can deploy him appropriately. Because the tight end, and I'm not suggesting that they've had someone at the level of a Noah Fant in terms of the talent there, but they don't necessarily, or they haven't placed a lot of emphasis on featuring that individual in the passing game. Right. Headley, you're back on the clock with the Raiders' second of 3 first-round picks. At the 24th overall pick, you selected Rock Ya-Sin from Temple. I know you like this corner. Yeah. He's a little unorthodox.
Yeah, he's one of my guys, man. I think he's probably the best man-to-man cover corner in the draft. Trail technique, he does it well. He's a little unorthodox, but he gets the job done. He's a physical player. Go opposite Gary and Conley, solidify your pass defense. And they're still missing a pass rusher, but I know Drew's coming in with the 27th pick for a pass rusher.
Moving right along to the 25th overall pick, the Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock. Drew, you opted for a running back. David Montgomery out of Iowa State. He's actually the 9th ranked prospect in the CPGM top 50, really highly. You guys really think a lot of David Montgomery? Tell the folks why.
Yeah, first of all, I want you to go to that draft profile on the Cardinals General Manager YouTube channel. I need you to go to minute 3:31. You'll have a good
Comedy.
We got you. But I'm tired of the Eagles having a pitch podge, a mishmash, a hodgepodge. There it is. we got words. A hodgepodge of running backs, and not to question, their talent or anything. I need to see a guy that I can count on play to play. That's going to be there. Ajayi was a name. And just I know
Smallwood, Corey Clement.
You see what I'm saying? And I know everybody has their role, but I need the Eagles to have a guy. This is a guy.
Yeah, man. His elusiveness, vision in the open field. He can catch the ball out the backfield. He gives all of those running backs the Eagles have in one player.
Sure.
And he does it in an effective manner, man. He's my RB1, both of our RB1s, and Eagles, man. This would be a great pick.
I think they need someone to take some pressure off of Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz is so fixated on silencing the doubters in terms of, they went with Nick Foles, and there was a conversation, should you move on from Carson Wentz, this, that, and the other. There are obviously going to be times when they have to lean on his right arm, but certainly when you have a team that is really in win mode now, a guy that can give you 320 touches, quality touches, as opposed to, as you mentioned, that hodgepodge, could go a long way in terms of vaulting this team back to the top of the NFC East. Next up is the Indianapolis Colts. Headley, you're on the clock.
Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle, Clemson Tigers. This is a dream selection here for the Indianapolis Colts. I don't think Wilkins will fall this far down the board, but the Colts, man, they've been doing everything right in the offseason. Ever since Chris Ballard got there, taking their time, and getting Darius Leonard in the second round, waiting for Justin Houston in free agency, Quintin Nelson. It's just they've been doing everything right. For Christian Wilkins to fall to them, it'd be another notch in their belt, man. If you look at the Colts team, they're building their trenches. They're building the offensive line last season, and then defensive line this season, in my opinion. I think Christian Wilkins would be a great addition to that Colts fast defense.
I mean, when you talk about the linebackers and Darius Leonard, then you push it back into the secondary with Malik Hooker. Is he healthy? Is he okay? Is he good?
Hopefully, man.
You sure?
I'm hoping.
Okay. Yeah. You throw in a Christian Wilkins, a guy who is would you call him a 3 technique? Would you call him a?
Yeah, I think his optimal position is 3 technique, but he did play some defensive end in Clemson, so he can do both.
Be a 5. You're going to see him playing a 5. I think.
Yeah.
So this is a player who you can kind of move around the defensive line. If someone gets injured, it's a guy who can fill in a spot, but you're going to get the same player no matter where you put him.
Sure.
You know, a guy who can get off the snap, who has dealt with double teams. And listen, coming from Clemson, where they do a lot of games up front, you know, twist, stunts and all that stuff. He's a seasoned guy in that respect.
The character, the intelligence of this football player, in addition to his physical skill, it feeds into what they've built.
Yeah.
You know, in Indianapolis, he's going to come to work. He's going to plug away. He's going to soak up, you know, the information. He's going to go out and execute. So, excellent pick here at the bottom of the first round. Next up is the third of 3 Oakland Raiders picks.
Finally got to it. Finally got to it.
All defensive players.
Finally got to it.
We hadn't necessarily addressed the pass rush. I know Devin White, obviously, he can get after the passer as a blitzer. But, Drew, you decided to go a little off the board here. Although this guy's name has been tied to the Raiders some. I think, you know, being at the Senior Bowl, the way he impressed at the Senior Bowl. LJ Collier from TCU.
Yo, when I turned the tape on, I had no idea what I was getting into. I just saw his name a couple of different times. Like, you know what, I'm going to tune in. I'm going to go watch him. And he impressed me a lot, man. And you know, when you talk about the Big 12 and their brand of football, it's a mess over there. It's battleship. It's not good, man. They take a bunch of tweeners and they move them around, put them in positions to not be really successful. And then when you try to evaluate them on tape, you're not sure what type of player they can be. Yeah. You know, you want to think 3-4, but maybe they're, you know, years down the line, you figure out it's a 4-3 they should have been in because of how they were used in college. It's really ridiculous. And, you know, it is what it is. But this is the type of player who played in the 4-3, played in the 3-4. Is a guy who can set the edge. Is a guy who has a high motor and can get up and around the offensive tackle, and he was used in a various amount of ways. And this is the edge guy. This is the guy y'all probably been screaming about since pick number 4. Yeah. Where this is it right here. And by the way, this is a steal. I actually think he's probably going to end up going in the second round somewhere.
He's definitely in my top 50 prospect. I know Drew got him a lot higher than I do, but yeah, man, I said a guy this big shouldn't be moving this fast. You know, his movement abilities, his ability to bend and get around offensive tackles. You know, adding to the Devin White and the Rocky Sin guy, these guys are tough, relentless players, man. That's another thing that shows up on tape with LJ Collier. He's just relentless. You know, as an offensive lineman, you don't want to face this guy every single play. You're like, yo, come on, let's just chill. You know, you play sports, you're like, hey, let's just take a play off. Nah, LJ Collier is not taking any plays off. So I think it's a good selection for the Oakland Raiders. The only issues I had with LJ Collier is, you know, trying to develop a better plan of attack. Sometimes he does a little dancing before he gets to the quarterback, and just keeping his head on a swivel when he comes down the line of scrimmage. You know, he could penetrate and get to the running backs, but sometimes he just not as aware. He gets hit in the ear.
The ear hole.
Try to do too much. Try to be the hero.
Yeah. Coming in at the 28th overall pick is the LA Chargers, and they take offensive tackle Andre Dillard. Headley, you made this particular selection. Yeah. The Chargers, they look good last year. They look really good last year. They've been working on. This is a team that had issues along their offensive line. A little bit better this past season. You think Dillard kind of really cements that group?
Yeah, man. That's exactly the word. Just cementing the offensive line. I liked what the Chargers did last season, running the football with Melvin Gordon. Don't expect Phillip Rivers to take too many hits and throw the ball 600 times a season.
His wife just had her 9th child.
Yeah. Congratulations. The right tackle position reared its ugly head last season in the playoffs against the New England Patriots. Forrest Lamp, I'm still waiting on Forrest Lamp. The latest reports now is they might move him to tackle, to play right tackle. But if not, they could put him into guard and make Andre Dillard play right tackle. This guy's probably
circumstances, yeah.
Yeah, Dillard's probably one of the best pass protectors. I think Jonah Williams and him are 1A and 1B. But you know, this his movement ability, his feet, how he uses his hands. I think he has the highest potential out of any offensive lineman in this draft class.
With that being said, why is he at the bottom of the first round? Jonah Williams obviously went ahead of him. I know you guys like him as a plug-and-play guy. Jawan Taylor. Why is Dillard coming off the board at the bottom of the first round?
Well, it's what he didn't have many reps in the run game.
Okay.
He played at Washington State, so
Sure.
they were in a pass-heavy attack. So teams might question, what can he do in the run game? I like his movement ability personally to get to the second level, but he just doesn't have enough reps there. He's one of those tackles. He's always up pass protection. You know, he's never gonna have his hand in the ground. Those are the question marks with Andre Dillard. He just have to work on run blocking.
Yeah, no push, and I got my notes. That may be, like you just said, it may be a lack of just not doing it enough.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Coaching, Mike Leach,
Yep.
you know, air raid. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he should have went 23rd to the Texans. No,
I know.
no
Somebody decided to go tight end. But looking at Andre Dillard, man, getting back into his pass pro set. Once he's there, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. So if you're a defensive lineman, you better be ready. You know, to maybe throw something a little different at him to throw him off course.
Sure.
Because once he's back and he's anchored, you know, good luck.
That's the main thing too. The anchor. A lot of times I see him get pushed back in the chest for bull rushes. We've seen it at the Senior Bowl also. So that's a thing that he needs to get stronger within his anchor.
Back to the offensive line. The Chiefs on the board with the 29th overall pick. Drew, you decided to go offensive line this time around, and you selected Dalton Risner.
Stayed in the state.
Okay, fair enough.
And next to his name is his offensive line because they lost their center.
Sure.
And he's a plug-and-play player. He could play center. He could play guard. He could play tackle. Wherever you want to put him, he'll play. I know this team needs defense. I know they need edge rushers, but I'm not sure what we're doing over there on the defense because they loaded up a bunch of defensive players last year. We questioned what are we doing? What are we doing? I still don't know what we're doing.
I understand. You want to keep Mahomes clean. You want to keep that thing going offensively. You want that to be a fine-tuned machine. You know what I mean? That's how you're going to win. That is their formula. They're transitioning to a 4-3 defense. You know, so Breland Speaks, Tony Casanova, you know, Derek Nandi. These are Alan Bailey's is not long for Kansas City anymore. So it remains to be seen what kind of transformation this defense goes through. But Headley, in terms of Risner, what do you think of that particular pick?
I like Risner, and the reason I like Risner is you know what you're going to get from Risner. He does it on a consistent level every single play. He's tough. He's nasty. Like you said, he's versatile. He can play any position along the offensive line. And this is a pedal to the metal pick, man. Like offense. We want offense, and we're going to outscore you, and we'll figure it out on defense. Yeah. So, you know, I have no qualms about that. I think Dalton Risner is a definite upgrade of what they have right now.
30th overall pick. Green Bay's on the clock. Green Bay's making their second pick in the first round. They went with Montez Sweat. You're coming back with Deebo Samuel from South Carolina, the receiver. DK Metcalf still out there. I know folks are probably screaming. Why are you going Deebo here?
Also Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb was a slot guy. Deebo Samuels, I think he can play outside and in the slot.
Okay.
DK Metcalf can't. He's just an outside receiver. So Deebo Samuel, this is one of my draft crushes, man. This guy is a running back once he touches the football. He's physical. He's aggressive. The only concern with Deebo Samuel is the injury concern. A lot of soft tissue injuries in his college career at South Carolina. But Deebo Samuel, Aaron Rodgers, he needs another guy. We know what Devontae Adams can do. He's one of the best receivers in football. They drafted 3 of them last season. Scantlin, Jamal Moore, and ESB. They drafted 3 receivers last year, man, and the only guy that really panned out to me is Scantlin. I know they're still young, they can still develop, but putting a Deebo Samuels, this guy knows how to get open. Aaron Rodgers would love this receiver. I know a lot of Packers fans want a DK Metcalf. They'll even select him at number 12, but getting a Montez Sweat at 12 and a Deebo Samuel, I love these 2 football players.
Every time I think about Deebo Samuels, I just think I kind of think Sammy Watkins. That's kind of where I go with it. But I can see a situation, a scenario where they're doing a lot of quick passes and they just 2-yard route, boom, and let Deebo work. I mean, just take the pressure off. Not that I think Aaron Rodgers loves the pressure, but take the pressure off for Aaron Rodgers in the offensive line and allow this man to go to work.
We've talked about it. That Green Bay, you know, Mike McCarthy in particular, didn't do a good job of taking some of the pressure off of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, you know, once Aaron Rodgers became 12, he had always raised the level of everyone else around him. But but just too often in that offense, things were difficult. The simplest of things seemed to be made difficult because of the scheme, because of the play design. But what do you guys have against DK Metcalf?
I had him at wide receiver 3, so I'm a little higher than Drew. It's just him getting in and out of his breaks. You know, he didn't have a lot of production at Ole Miss. He was injured a lot. This is a potential pick, man. It's like
I think his floor is a little bit lower than a lot of people.
Yeah, I think
consider.
Yeah,
sure.
and you don't know what you're going to get. You know what he does really well, but if teams take that away, it's the NFL. Teams are going to take that away. Can he adjust?
You know, when I go back and I look at Ole Miss, just period, just offense. First of all, the offense is terrible. I just you keep
getting at that quarterback.
I mean, it's the quarterback combined with the play call. You know, watching DK Metcalf, you know, it didn't surprise me when he goes to the combine and the stuff where he needs to change direction, those drills. You don't see that on tape. He's a straight, you know, line runner, and you know, he doesn't high point the football. As big as he is, you would think, oh man, I'm going to go up and get it, and no one else is going to. It's none of that. And I just wonder, you know, if he's challenged, you know, because he really wasn't challenged in college because he's so big, he's so strong.
Sure.
You know,
he's a better athlete than most people lining up across from him. Yeah.
Exactly. In the NFL, no, we're gonna see if you can get past his press coverage. We're gonna see if you can hang with a guy running with you in your hip pocket.
I think to your point, especially what Deebo Samuel does in terms of the return game as well, I think he offers more immediately. And if you go into Green Bay, you already got a slew of receivers that are kind of more of the developmental type guys, speed guys, you know what I mean? I think Deebo Samuel offers something those guys just doesn't, and he's more polished at this point than DK Metcalf. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Rams coming in with the 31st overall pick. Drew, this is your guy. You've been talking about him throughout the entirety of this video. Not everybody's on him. Not everybody's on him. So educate the masses about Khalil Hodge out of Buffalo.
Khalil Hodge out of Buffalo. Who else came out of Buffalo?
Khalil Mack.
Okay, what's his name as well?
Khalil.
Okay.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Now, he's not quite the dynamic player that Khalil Mack was. He wasn't used in that way, but he is a stack and shed linebacker. He is a sideline linebacker. He is a guy who has nice spatial awareness. The guy's not getting any run, didn't get a combine invite. This is a guy who essentially, in high school, man, this man had, I think, 200 and something tackles in his senior year in high school, going from running back to linebacker, really didn't get any play, and he's still not getting any play. I've seen ranges from 5th round to 3rd round. Listen, whoever gets this guy is going to get a steal, and they're going to be wondering why he wasn't talked about.
Yeah, man. When Drew, I seen his top 5 position, he had him at linebacker 1. I was like, yo, Drew's on that thing again, man. Well, you on that drink?
You on that sark?
But I went to watch the tape after he had him at linebacker 1 because I didn't see him before then. And I can see what you like in him, man. I've had to move him up my linebacker rankings. I put him at number 3. He's one of the best. It's him and Devin Bush at tackling. You know, 1st and 2nd down in the box. These guys are going to get to the ball carrier. Some people might have issues with his speed, sideline to sideline, but he takes good angles to the football. And passing out situations, I've seen him jumping routes. Bottom line is Khalil Hodge does everything well, and whichever team gets him, I agree with Drew, is going to be getting a steal. I don't think he's going to go 1st round, but you are the GM, and you're going to be looking like the smartest man in the room.
Listen, it might be a situation how when the Colts drafted Darius Leonard, like, yo, what's going on? Listen, I think it's a conspiracy, bro. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. I'm trying to wrap my head around what's the issue here, and I don't. The man don't even get a combine invite. He had a crazy number of tackles in college, and he was like MAC player, all pro. What is happening? Yeah. Somebody's hiding this guy. Somebody's working on something and they're hiding this guy.
One issue that I see with Khalil Hodge on tape is.
You almost said MAC, bro.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
It's misdirection plays, man. It takes him a while. He kind of goes the wrong way first, and before it's too late. It's a misstep. He takes a misstep, and it's too late to catch the guy coming around the other edge. So that's the only issue I see with Hodge, but tackling machine, shedding blocks, he's at the top of the class.
The final pick in the 1st round,
another conspiracy,
is actually the 5th ranked prospect in the CPGM top 50.
Ridiculous.
So in other words, the New England Patriots, the rich get richer.
There it is.
And it's Jeffrey Simmons, defensive tackle out of Mississippi State. Headley, I know you love Simmons.
Yeah.
And Drew, you might actually love Simmons more.
The first step quickness, the strength, his ability to shed blockers. It's like, I've seen it on tape time after time. Like, there's a guy on him. Like, why is he not slowing down to the quarterback? He's just, his upper body strength and his lower body strength, they just work in unison with each other. And this is a Patriot pick, man. Like you said, the rich get richer. Every other team is overthinking it. Oh, this guy had the ACL injury. He's not going to be here immediately. Well, the Patriots know he's going to be back when they need him the most.
Playing the long game. Playing the long game here.
You know, this dude is incredible. I know we can sit around, we can talk about Montez
Yeah,
Sweat.
I knew.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up, bro. We can sit around and talk about Montez Sweat and all the sacks he had was 11, something like that. And he's the player that, nah, bro. Nah, what made that Mississippi State defense go is that guy in the middle was Jeffrey Simmons. This dude was incredible. Like, he was at times unblockable, double team, triple team. I mean, he's moving people around like it's a chessboard. I mean, it was really ridiculous, freeing things up for the linebackers and safeties. Man, Patriots better not get this dude. I hope you're very upset. I know we got to wait a year or whatever, but
not even a year.
I mean, well, yeah, it's like getting stitches these days. Was an ACL, correct? Yeah. So I don't want to see that. I don't want to see the rich get richer. But if the Patriots pull this off, man, this is a hell of a move because they're getting a hell of a player. Essentially, can replace anybody lost on the defensive line. Because he's so strong and quick. His weakness shows is that he gets up too quick, pops up too quick.
Technique. That's kind of the only detractor. Is that because I have such my physical gifts are so amazing.
Yes.
I get sloppy with my technique from time to time.
I mean, I've been dominating this guy in front of me all day, or these three guys in front of me all day. That sometimes I just, I pop up and they he's not getting pushed back too hard, but you can see where he probably should have won that and he didn't. But in the NFL, you're probably going to get embarrassed.
Right, right. You guys have him as a 5th-ranked prospect in this class. Yep. Check out that draft profile at Untitled General Manager on the YouTube channel, and you can get a sense of what Drew thinks or why Montez Sweat was as effective as he was. He bases a lot of that on what Jeffrey Simmons did in terms of making everybody else around him better. The thing about Jeffrey Simmons that is really scary about the whole Patriots situation is obviously he's going to the Patriots, but the Patriots have lost Trey Flowers, Malcolm Brown, and he's scheme versatile. You can do a couple of different things. You can have him lined up over the center. You can play a little 3 technique, a 5 technique. You can do any number of things with him. So that kind of chess piece with that kind of ability once he's healthy is scary business. That's going to do it for our 2019 NFL mock draft. Check us out. Please like, comment, and subscribe.